Welcome to Extras, part of the Drag Me to the Movies podcast. My name is Joe.
I'm Ned.
And in this episode, we're going to talk about critics versus audience scores and who's right. Is
Mm.
there one side that's right, or is there a little bit of value from both? So, what do you think, Ned? Why don't you kick us off?
So I think I'm gonna hold kind of what I think um overall till the end. Um, but in general, I feel there's value from both sides. Would you agree with that?
I think so. I think so. Um, yeah, I myself feel like critics have more of um a litmus test, I guess, approach, like scientific approach at how they look at films, and I feel like audience is more on the enjoyment factor. Um,
Yes,
so
I would
yeah,
agree with that for the most part as well.
yeah. So that's, I mean, that's where I think they both have their place. But what do you feel like you side with one more than the other?
I kind of try to stay somewhere in the middle personally, because I could you consider me a film critic? I guess, but at the same time, I don't necessarily feel I have a lot of the same bias that a lot of kind of film critics with more of a reputation have.
Right.
Does that make sense?
I think we talked about this before
Mm-hmm.
in that like you and I kind of have that uh difference between us where I'm more of like how the film made me feel.
Right.
Not that you don't use that as well, but
Mm-hmm.
you more are of like you're looking for those specific things and
I'm looking overall
so
and how
right.
everything came together for me.
Yep. Yeah. I agree.
Yeah, I think obviously with the film critics, they have some more expertise. They have more films that they've seen for context and knowing what's been done before and how things have been shot. They focus a little bit more on the technicality of like the visual effects, the artistry. They really try to promote things that I feel that they have like a sense of I don't even know how to really say it, but like those hidden gems, they kind of try to bring those out and kind of promote those as there's something special to be seen here.
Hmm.
Um, and yeah, I think ultimately they just may even have like a checklist that they go down through. Did the movie do this, this, and give it a score just based off that?
Right.
So, which I think there's a few other things that, could be a negative from that. I feel like they might have some bias of like, have they seen this in some other movie before? If they've seen it before, that is probably going to be a negative thing for anything new that tries to borrow or duplicate it. Even if it's something that's an homage or playing upon nostalgia. Um, just stuff like that that I feel can have them tear a movie apart when it's not absolutely necessary,
Right.
especially thinking of something like a movie that someone might be seeing as their first movie ever. So that's at
Yep.
least my thoughts. Do you have anything else from a film critic standpoint that you care to add?
Um, I mean, I don't know. I struggle sometimes with how things land with them, and then sometimes I align as well. It's odd. Like as part of what before as my research for this, I tried to look at like what are some notorious films where like the spread was off
Mm-hmm.
between, the critics and the audience. And there's some movies where I thought the critics got it right and the audience didn't. Like I sided with the critics. And then there's ones where it was the other way around. Um,
Okay, I didn't dig
it,
into that. I'd be curious. Do you have any examples?
yeah. So, Sausage Party. Have you ever seen Sausage
I
Party?
have.
Yeah. So I kind of like it, but it's
It's
more of a
crude
I'll watch it
humor
once
and
for the
yeah, yeah.
right for the shock of it.
Mm-hmm.
Critics loved it. The critics gave it like an 80% on Rotten Tomatoes, and the audience gave it a 50%. So there was a giant spread there, which makes me wonder too. Like, are there universal critics for films with Rotten Tomatoes, or do people pick their genres and stick with them? Right? Because like I
I think
can't
it's a little bit of
imagine.
both.
Yeah, I can't imagine that Sausage Party would land with a lot of critics, because of how crude it is.
Right.
But
And then
but
you
seems
also
like
have
it
to
did
think
pretty
of
well.
how diverse an audience is. The ones that
Right,
go to see it, they're gonna maybe rank it higher than people who just completely avoid it and never
right.
chime in at all.
Yep, yep. And then there's things like Indiana Jones and the Crystal Skull. The critics gave that a high score. Notoriously, I don't know how you feel about it, but I thought that was a terrible film.
I
Um,
haven't
I,
revisited in a while. I don't My general consensus is I did not enjoy it,
right,
but again, I probably should watch it again before I speak up on that.
yeah. I'm trying to look here to see if there's any other ones that are kind of standouts. The Joker, the original Joker. Um, the audience liked it more than the critics did. That was a big difference. Transformers, the original Transformers, there was an 80 or 58% difference between the critics score and the audience score.
I'm assuming
It's
critics was lower.
27% critics. Yeah,
Yeah.
27% for critics and 85% for fans or audience. So I think that's more of a fan service movie than
Hmm.
anything. Um, so I get it. But yeah, it's just interesting sometimes of how drastically different they are.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, you have to think
so
about like from an audience point of view, what do you got them kind of looking at? They have ultimately, did we enjoy it? Did they play upon something that registers with them, like something that moves them in a way they haven't felt before, or something that maybe they needed at a specific time in their life?
right.
Um, there's just a whole bunch of factors from the audience side, which I think is why, I mean, not that there isn't from the critic side as well, but I just feel the audience is going to be a much wider range of reviews.
Hmm.
Um, because I think ultimately, like, as soon as you just think about you talking to your friends and some of the movies you might want to go see. If you hear, oh, hey, that movie's not that good from a certain friend, that might start to, give you the idea that I don't care to see it.
Right.
So I think, word of mouth and how things pass around with audiences definitely impacts overall audience scores because they don't even take time to see the movie and probably write a review on it or tap it into their phone or whatever.
Yep. Yep. No, I agree. There's definitely a lot of factors that play into I guess the likability of a film.
Hmm. For
Um,
sure.
like you said, the grassroots side of it is definitely part of it. There's also in my mind, and I'm trying to look up one here now. But there's films I feel like that may not have gotten the advertising that it deserves
Yes,
either.
marketing definitely
Um,
sways a lot more people, and an audience is probably just not going to have anything. And that's another factor that plays into it is like you look at something like Rotten Tomatoes. If you go out there and you're looking at a movie, not only looking at the scores, look at the numbers behind the scores and how many people have actually reviewed it. On something that's not marketed well, it's going to be a much lower number of people giving it that percentage.
right. Right, like, one of the films I was looking up is Donnie Darko. So,
Hmm.
that's one of my favorite films, out of the early 2000s, and, like, on Rotten Tomatoes, it's got 124 reviews. Like, it's
Yeah.
barely anything. But it's rated well, and I agree that it should be rated well, but it's one of those things where I don't know why it just didn't catch on. It's probably the premise of it all, because it is definitely a fever dream film.
Yeah.
Um, but
I mean,
yeah,
I know that
it's
movie.
interesting to me.
I want to say that was one I haven't looked at that one in a while. I did enjoy it myself, um, but I can't remember if that one just came out at a bad time. Um, I think it did much better after it was in theaters.
Yeah. Yeah, it's one of those cult followings, like,
Yeah.
it peaked later on. Same with, like, The Big Lebowski, it's one of my favorites.
Hmm.
Didn't do well on launch. Clue also didn't do well on launch. Idiocracy.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, it's just one of those things. I guess, I mean, they did well, but there's also, I think, the timing of the films
Hmm.
may be
For
bad.
sure.
To your point,
Yeah.
like the original Star Wars trilogy, you know,
Hmm.
I look back at it now, and I think they're pretty good.
Oh yeah.
When they first came out, I did not like them that much. I mean,
Really?
there were parts,
Okay.
the Darth Maul from the first one was pretty cool. The third one I thought was probably the best out of all three. But as an adult now, I appreciate them a lot more than what I did when they first came out, and I feel like that's kind of a consensus on the internet.
Yeah, and I
Is that
think
they kind of aged a little bit better.
that's true. But another factor there is like a movie you see in your youth, if you revisit it later on in life, as we've already discussed before, my score has changed rewatching something. Me watching a movie 25 years from now, that's gonna change most likely. I'm a different person.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think it plays into as well, the echo chamber that you're in at that
Hmm.
time,
Sure.
right? So, like, you figure when this trilogy came out, the original Star Wars trilogy, folks were still very in the picture, you know what I mean? Not
Right.
that that generation's died off, but they were young parents then, and, of course, nothing was as good as the first trilogy, and, maybe that kind of reflected on us as, first-time viewers.
For sure.
Um, but yeah, so yeah, I mean, I know that's not necessarily talking about critics itself, but I feel like it's adjacent enough to say, like, sometimes critics do get it wrong, but to that point, I think there's a lot of factors out there that it might influence them at the time.
Yes.
There could be political stuff going on where
Yes.
the jokes that were made in a film were not correct at the time, or something happened, and vice versa. Something might have scored well now, like then, but now may not. Uh,
Yeah. And
yeah,
I think
so.
that's what goes into both of them is like, personal bias. It can impact critics directly, audiences. It can be very polarizing for certain movies. Um, I just feel in general like it's wishy-washy no matter what you do. And if you're looking for a go-to reference point, I don't think one exists. I think kind of the best solution is look up the reviews. Check out Rotten Tomatoes, check out IMDb, check out Letterboxd, whatever. Read some of the reviews if you're trying to avoid spoilers, don't do that, but you know, get as much input on it as you can and then kind of make your own informed decision. Did you like the stuff you were seeing in the trailer? Is there anything for trigger warnings? Just
Mm.
those types of things. Like if you know this movie's most likely something you're not going to like, then don't make time for it. But also don't take time to review bomb it or something with just because it has an actor you don't like.
Right.
And that's
Yeah,
one of the
I
things with critics. I think they get personally offended sometimes and they end up review bombing something because of it.
yeah, I want to reiterate what you said there about making your own decision, right?
Hmm.
So, if it's something you're on the fence about, sure, but like I still like, if anything this podcast has given me, it's given me the appreciation that just because the masses are talking shit about a film doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be bad. Like,
Right.
I always go back to Morbius. Morbius was not a terrible film. It wasn't great, but it wasn't nearly as bad as what the internet sold it as.
Yep.
So like, would I be remiss if I didn't watch it? No, like it wouldn't ruin my life, but like, still, it was enjoyable. It it was a movie. I had fun with it. I probably won't go back and watch it, but it's I'm not upset that I watched it. And so that's kind of what I want to lean on here is, make your own decision to your point.
Hmm.
Go out, take a chance, if it's you don't have the financial side of it to gamble on something, then wait till it comes out on streaming if you have a service.
Yeah.
Um, you know.
And I mean, I don't know about you. I have a bunch of YouTubers and other sources and threads, people that I
Mm.
follow, which, they're kind of people who review movies. I wouldn't call them all critics, but there are a few critics in there. Um, I watch them all. They all have various degrees of opinions, and I think that's kind of what I do is I go and check out like what they have to say, and obviously I still hold my opinion for myself, and I usually, being who I am, I want to see the movie regardless and form my own opinion. But that's something you can do is like find someone who just go check out their YouTube channel watch 5 of their reviews of movies you've seen. Does anything align with what you expected from that movie? If so, stick with that person, see what they say about the movie that you're thinking about going to see, and determine if you want to go see it. There's
Yeah, that's
tons
a
of
great point.
resources out there
Mm.
that you can get some information. Obviously, you want to try to avoid spoilers when possible if that is something you care about. Some people don't. I know for me, I always wanted to, personally, since I have a programming background, I always kind of wanted to put together my own algorithm. And it would not only be based off of how movies are rated and tagged, it would also have to factor in the individual, because a movie I go to the theaters to see is definitely not going to be something my mom goes to see.
Right.
So everyone is different. Everyone has a different history, past, things that are triggered. So just
Yeah.
see if you can find someone who has a similar opinion, follow them. And if you can find, a handful of those people, that might probably make you have a little bit better of a decision if you want to see it.
You do you have any recommendations for YouTube that you'd like to share? Like any
Um,
channels?
yeah, I think I can throw out a couple. So
Okay.
just off the top of my head, um, Chris Stuckman is an individual that I follow. He is actually making his own movie at the moment, so that's kind of cool. Um,
Okay.
I will even throw out Jeremy Johns is also another individual. I check out his reviews on movies. There's tons of them. I'll link a few more in the description. But yeah, check out those individuals, watch a couple of the reviews, see if you align with any of their thoughts, and maybe that'd be a good
Mm.
source for you to find some new movies.
Awesome. So one thing I want to add on, you kind of mentioned it, I think in a roundabout way, or maybe you did call it out and I blacked out for a minute, but um even having like friends that
Yes.
you relate to with films. Did you specifically talk about that?
Um, loosely, not
Okay,
directly for
because I know
sure.
you said it like, like someone like a movie you watch your mom won't like kind of thing. Well,
Right.
like having friends that have either they have the same um
Same
draw
taste.
towards certain films, or if they know you well enough, right? Like
Right.
Ned, you and I may not have the same taste in films, but I think you know well enough if I'm going to like something, if I were to ask you like, hey, should I go see it?
There's
And
been a
probably
few
vice
times where I've
versa
been
too.
off with that, but we do have a podcast built around it.
Right. But yeah, like I would definitely weigh whatever your side of it is. Same thing with like a friend of the podcast, Warlock of Wi-Fi.
Hmm.
Like he reviews films as well, and so actually that should be another link that we throw out there
Yep,
as
for sure.
a good spot to look. But yeah, just having a friend or so that would take a chance on a film and then get their feedback, can help determine whether you should go see something. And like for instance with Superman, which we talked about last episode, it's going to be our next
Movie
actual
review.
main
Yep.
episode, right? Um, I took a chance on it, whereas a lot of my like best friends did not. Um, and the reason they didn't is because they're tired of Superman. Like they feel like the DC universe has been beaten to death. And
Hmm.
I understand that. I
Right.
agree with them. But I've come to like James Gunn, and so that was my kind of way into wanting to see Superman. And I'm glad I did. And so
Yeah.
I've recommended it to them since then. Um, so I don't want to go too far into a review or anything like that,
Because we
or I'll
got a
stop it
review
there.
coming
But
up if you
right,
want to know
right.
more.
Yep, but yeah, so that I mean that's a good example of, somebody goes sees it in the friend group and then they give that recommendation or lack thereof.
Yeah.
So yeah, share your love of movies with your friends is where I'm going.
Yeah. And as I said, like for me, it's about finding other YouTubers that have a similar opinion based on what I like. And then, you know, trailers can help, but I've also been trying to only really watch one trailer before I go to see the movie and hope that it didn't ruin it for me. So
Yeah. Man, that's getting worse and worse. I don't know,
yeah, that might have to be a
did you see
whole
the last
other.
Fantastic Four one?
I did not. I've watched maybe
Don't.
two or three
Yeah.
and then I stopped.
Yeah, don't, because it ruined a big plot point. I don't know why
Yeah.
they did it. Uh yeah, I wish I didn't see it. But
Well, I
yeah, I
mean,
agree with
Thunderbolts
you.
does did a something similar.
Yeah.
There's a few things even with like Superman that I was like, I'm glad I saw the movie when I did, because as soon as I got home and hopped on Threads, something was spoiled. I'm like, good
Mm,
that wasn't spoiled for me because that would have definitely been a frustrating point.
yeah.
So,
Yep.
but yeah, I overall I think critics, audiences, there's value to be drawn from them. I tend to lean more towards the audience side, I think personally, because I really am at a movie to enjoy it and have a good time and see something cool. So, or see a good story. So, if it meets that, that's usually where I'm siding with the audience over the critics. What about you?
Yeah, I'm right there with you. Um, yeah, I mean, you like we talked about at the beginning of this is I'm more on the feelings side of it,
Hmm.
less on the meeting certain criteria, checking boxes or whatever. So yeah, I would say I'm also with the audience in most cases. I
Yeah,
mean, there's definitely the outliers, but
for sure.
yeah, I would say more times than not, I'm on their side.
I mean, just I don't necessarily want to get too deep into it, but the most recent Jurassic Park Rebirth, people are tearing that movie apart,
Yeah,
and I I kind of see some of their points, but at the same time, I don't agree entirely with how they're attacking it.
yeah. I mean, apparently it was good enough to make Scarlett Johansson the highest paid actor.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
so there must be something to it. I know myself, I'm not interested because I've had enough of Jurassic Park. I feel like it's been beaten to death. But from what I'm reading online, it's giving it kind of a fresh take on it. Which maybe I should at least when it comes out streaming, give it a watch.
I would
Um,
suggest you at least do that.
okay.
So yeah, and that's the whole other thing is like whether it's in theaters or on Netflix, like once something's on Netflix or some other streaming service, if you have access to that service, you can watch it and form your own opinion. So you can avoid critics and audience ratings altogether and form your own opinion.
Mhm. Absolutely.
So
And I would be remiss if we didn't mention it, but you and I both have letterboxed accounts, and
true.
so we put our reviews of the movies we talk about on the podcast here, but we also watch some films outside of the podcast.
I watched a lot of
I've
films
been
outside of the podcast.
yeah, I know you do, yeah, and I've been trying to keep my momentum going. So like
I have a
I think
goal
I just
this
told you I
year.
watched Nosferatu, and that's something I typically wouldn't have watched, and
Yeah.
so
I was
you can
actually
see this
very
there.
happy to hear you took the time to watch that
Yep.
because I don't even think I really mentioned to you much about that one. So I'm curious what swayed you that way. But I know for me, I
Oh,
have a personal goal. Um, I looked at my letterbox over the past few years, and even with me watching movies from previous years, I have never broken 100 movies watched in a year, at least for the
oh
past
wow.
5 years. So my goal for 2025 is to watch at least 100 movies.
So you're what, two movies a week on average?
Yeah, do you want to know where I'm currently sitting with that?
Where are you?
I have right now 35 entries for 2025.
Oh, dude, you're gonna have to be pulling three, three a week or four a week.
I
Uh,
I watch movies a
because you're not
lot.
even halfway there.
Yeah,
I
and it
know, but
doesn't
you're
necessarily have to
halfway
be
through the
in
year.
theater either. Like I could
No,
watch
understood.
stuff. Yeah,
But I'm just saying you're gonna have to pick up the pace because we're more than half of the year through, and you're only at 35. So
yep. Might have to
I'm
quit that
pulling
day
for you.
job.
I'm not saying you're not gonna do it. Yeah, you're gonna have to pack it up. Pack it up. This podcast is gonna have to start making us some buku bucks.
Yep. But yeah, I think that's generally how I feel about the audience versus critics. Do you have anything
Yeah.
else you want to add?
No, other than I'd love to hear our viewers or listeners' thoughts on this.
Yeah. Do you agree
Do you
with
guys side
us?
with? Yeah, absolutely. Let us know. You can find us on our socials at To The Movies Pod on Threads and Facebook, or The Movies Pod on YouTube, which is where we've been uploading our video format of the podcast. So
True.
yeah, so would love again to ask that you guys give us reviews on your podcast apps or like and subscribe to our YouTube. That
And
helps as
ring
well.
that bell.
Comment, get us out there. Yep. And of course, grassroots, share us around with your friends, either on Facebook threads or give our YouTube link out. That would be greatly appreciated.
Indeed.
So I guess that's gonna wrap this one up. Thanks for that discussion, Ned. I feel like I learned a little bit and also just reaffirmed what I already knew.
Yeah, for sure. It was a good conversation. I enjoyed it.
Indeed. All right, we'll see you next week for Superman. Bye bye.
Bye, bye.